Okay, now I'm going to recap the last week of January 2026, give or take a day. Let's talk stuff, all right? Um, as my post production scroll for the previous stuff of the weekend, stuff of a Vegas weekend, I think I called it. I forgot to go over one of the pieces of swag I got at the Excalibur gift store or gift shop. It's called the Dragon's Lair, and it's got this little figure, dragon statue out there that occasionally, that its eyes I think flash, and he'll occasionally growl. And there's a lot of like all Excalibur themed, or so fantasy, like knights and fairies, fae, princesses, dragons and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! Just it's a for all ages too. So stuff for the adults and stuff for the kids. And I got myself this skull with dragon, as the little label on the bottom calls it. But you can see there's the skull, and on the top there is the dragon. And I'm like, this is cool. I want this. So I got it. And you know what? I'll put you right there for now. I'll put you next to Megalon and Hedera. Titanosaurus is back there. Boop. So there's that. Reading wise, I started Necroscope 2 Vampire by Brian Lumley, which is, as the title would reveals, it is a sequel to his novel Necroscope, which I read about a year or so ago, and I had a blast with that book. I immediately I had read it on my Kindle, so I immediately just bought and downloaded the second book, because when I was gripped beginning to end by Necroscope, and the last 100 pages, I just had a big grin on my face at just how over the top ludicrous it got. In fact, when I finished it, the first thing I did was I went and put on the soundtrack to Life Force, so the theme would be playing and I could hear it, because that book ended with an escalation worthy of the ending of Life Force. It was awesome. I loved it. And it read kind of like a standalone book, but it sold well. So enter a sequel. This book, I think, came out about 4 or 5 years after, or I wasn't as diligent with fact checking, because this really is just an update, not a review or anything. But it was interesting because the way the book First Necroscope ended, it could be a self-contained book, so it's almost comical. And Lumley definitely has his tongue-in-cheek through a lot of this stuff. He doesn't take it all that seriously. He doesn't expect his readers to take it all that seriously. He wants to tell a really fun, cosmic horror level vampire story. So, and he succeeds. But to get around that supposedly closed loop, there's this thing that happened in between the scenes that nobody knew about, but the vampire did. So he did this thing, and this is what it's setting in motion now. So we got to do something about it. And it's flimsy enough that if you roll with it, it works. I mean, I've seen more ludicrous ideas bandied around, and it's just like, I'll go with it. An interesting touch on this too, or an interesting little factoid, was that while we were at Dragon Castle Books, in Vegas, I came across the Tor paperback of Necroscope 2, Vampire. And I actually pulled it off the shelf and showed it to Dave. I said, "Hey, this is the book I'm reading." Um, but I didn't buy it, obviously, because this anecdote would be in my Dragon Castle books video and not this one. Um, it's one of those things where I was like, I kind of regret not getting it, but um, my shelf space is pretty abysmally small at this moment. So, hmm, maybe some other day. Who knows? Um, Vinegar Syndrome took a huge bite out of my wallet recently by releasing a trio of Blu-ray special editions that I just could not pass on. The first one I really want to talk about is the wonderful release of Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, the original 1973 made-for-television film that starred Kim Darby and Jim Hutton and was directed by John Newland and written by Gene Fowler, I believe. And this, has a young lady, or not, a young lady and her husband. A young lady inherits a house from her grandmother and convinces her husband to move in there and refurbish the place. And she discovers a locked room that opens into a study that has been sealed off. And in that study is a fireplace that was bricked up, and the door that opens up to clean out the ashes has been bolted shut. It is sealed, and she asked the handyman who had worked for her grandparents whether or not he can open it. He says, "Well, I want to use the fireplace," and he's like, "Nope, nope, nope, nope. That thing's sealed up. Bricks 4 feet deep. We got bars in there, and we filled it with concrete. It's sealed off. Don't open it. Don't open it. Don't open it. Don't open it. Some things are better left just forgotten. Don't open it. Don't open it. Don't open it. Don't open it." So he leaves, and she opens it. And they are free. These little trollish gnome things that live in the fireplace or in the bowels of the earth is kind of unclear, and I liked it that way. And of course, they start tormenting the young woman, and whispering like, "Sally, join us, Sally." This is a really tight, focused, horror story that freaked out people in 1973. I didn't see it when it originally aired because I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I don't think my parents would have let me stay up and watch it. But I do know I had heard on the playground from people who had seen it, and they talked about how scary it was. And there were people who explained the story about the little men that came out of the fireplace and everything. So when I finally saw it, I was very happy to see that it lived up to the hype. I'm glad I got this. It's a little on the overpackaged side, and I will forewarn people who do want to buy it that this insert is stuck. It can get stuck in here to the point where you almost have to tear the packaging to get it out. This was a chore to get out. But it also has a wonderful. It has a booklet by Amanda Reyes about John Newland's. What's the title of it? A look at the women in John Newland's TV work. But she also provides an audio commentary for the film, as well as there is an audio commentary by Steve Barton, best known as Uncle Creepy at Dread Central, and what's his name? Jeffrey Reddick? Is that was it? Or is it? Let me see. Jeffrey Reddick, who wrote the original Final Destination, and critic Sean Abley. They did a commentary as well, which I'll probably give a listen to along with wait a minute. No, I didn't. I did that wrong. Go like this. Goes in here. But again, this is the inside. I don't know if I showed, but that's the in. You have the gnome guys, and then that. Yeah, they only had three suits, so there's only three. No, although it's implied that there's many more, there was only three suits, so there's only three that appear in any one given shot. So um, maybe you want to call them Mo, Larry, and Curly. I don't know. I don't know. But if you I'm gonna regret doing this, but let's see if I can get it back out. Nope. See, told you. Um, it's like it's glued in there, man. But I give this 5 stars, 5 out of 5. The transfer, which is in its proper aspect ratio, the jump scare reveal when you finally see a clear look at the visage of the gnome monsters or the troll monsters or whatever. It's just chef's kiss. I love it. The other two things that I from Vinegar Syndrome were two releases of Dario Argento films from the late 1990s. First up is this really nicely packaged one of the Stendhal Syndrome from 1996. It's a pretty, as you can see, it's a nice packaging. This is a limited edition packaging they got going on here, featuring Ozia and Thomas. I think it's pronounced Kreutzmann. And also like that, it has a booklet which by Michael Blythe, Art Attack: Voyeurism and Violation in the Stendhal Syndrome. This I like this one. Okay, I don't like it as much as some of Argento's other work. Like a lot of his post-opera or post Two Evil Eyes movies. He kind of struggled, and he also transitioned out of being from being visually flamboyant to being more more character focused flamboyant. So the tone and style and look of his movies kind of changed. But I think this is a really interesting film. It's a very difficult watch at times, and the fact that it's his daughter that's going through a lot of the violation, it just kind of adds a level of skeeviness to it that's just weird. But it's it's really good, and it had an ending that kind of left me um, it's alternately it's really sad, but it's also very hopeful. If it's that makes any sense. It's a very challenging film, and I do recommend it. Not a classic, but it's worth checking out. Now, the other one was one that I thought I would never waste um, money getting, but they released Phantom of the Opera, which was Argento's second. Hi, Sam. Sam is paying me a visit or paying us a visit. Say hello to Sam. But this is the Phantom of the Opera, and it is a from 1998, and it starred the late Julian Sands as the Phantom, and I thought it was interesting in that he the opening of the film kind of like harkens to Batman Returns with the future Phantom of the Opera being dropped into the sewers, ouch, sewers of Paris, and in a bassinet and floating down and then being raised by rats and instead of penguins. So, and this was Argento's. I think I mentioned this. Argento's second period picture. His first was the 5 days, which I have over there. And he would follow this with Dracula, and so I remember not liking it, watching it, thinking, "Oh my God, this is bad. This is bad." But I thought I'd give it a second look just to see if it's bad as I remember it, and also it's a limited edition, and I'm a completist, and Julian Sands is no longer with us, and um, I just have questionable collecting and buying habits sometimes. So I have a copy of Dario Argento's The Phantom of the Opera. Make of that what you will. That's what I have reading, purchasing. Let's go to the newspaper ads. All right. So Monday, January 26th. I found an ad from January 26th in 1972 for a triple bill of The Corpse Grinders, The Undertaker and His Pals, and The Embalmer. Now, of the trio of gruesome shockers that are getting hyped up in this lurid ad for this horrifying triple bill, I believe I've only seen most, but maybe not all, of The Undertaker and His Pals. That is a stilted and rather labored horror comedy about an undertaker that supplies a neighboring diner with human meat for its customers. So it's kind of like, I guess, a Sweeney Todd inspired, or based on the kind of Sweeney Todd legend. It's also kind of like, the filmmaking is on the level of, like, say, Herschel Gordon Lewis or Al Adamson, or that kind of like slapdash exploitation filmmaking. I don't remember it as being all that good. Also, being a fan of genre and exploitation cinematic ephemera, I really should check out Ted V. Michael's notorious The Corpse Grinders. But it's also one of those movies which is the top billed film because it was the most recent one. It was the 1971. But it's also one of those movies I wonder about the animal treatment in the film. For those that don't know, the film's central concept is that a desperate cat food company uses human remains for their cat food, which is something that drives the animals then to attack and devour their owners because suddenly they're craving human flesh. I seriously doubt that the Humane Society was on the set during some of the cat attacks, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. So that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of reluctant to watch it. And also the title of the movie is off-putting, But I'm also just getting old. The third movie is The Embalmer, and it's the oldest of the three, speaking of getting old. And it seems to be, or is, an Italian shocker about a crazed killer that holes up in the catacombs of Venice, where he keeps a collection of his preserved and artfully displayed female victims. So, all in all, it seems like a pleasant way to waste 5 or 6 hours at your local grindhouse or drive-in, I guess. Over at the newspaper ad archive, I posted this ad from January 26, 1978. And this is for a book called The Sexual Outlaw by John Ricci? I looked it up. The Goodreads synopsis describes it as an angry, eloquent outcry against the oppression of homosexuals that offers an explosive nonfiction account with commentaries of 3 days and nights in the sexual underground of Los Angeles in the 1970s battlefield of the sexual outlaw. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's still in print or not. It probably is at a boot. I don't know if it's in print or not. It probably still is in a boutique label. Kind of flub there. But it did warm my heart to see that a major publisher and a mainstream publisher, it was Dell paperback, and a newspaper, granted it was a San Francisco newspaper, but they both released and advertised the work. And I'm sure it offers a rather intriguing snapshot of a different time and lifestyle that no longer exists. Yet I think the struggle against the oppression of homosexuality probably is still relevant today, even though you can get, it seems on the surface level, to be more accepted. Any perusal of, YouTube comments or some anti-woke commentary will show otherwise. All right, that's enough of that. Let's move on. Tuesday, January 27th, I found an ad for January 27th, 1980 for The Fog. The Fog was the first John Carpenter movie I would be hyper-focused on and obsessed with seeing after I had gotten the top of my head blown off by Halloween in the fall of 1979. And before it came out, I believe there was no way this would not be another classic from the man who did Halloween. Hi, Sam. Also, fog banks, cool. I love fog banks. And while fog banks might not be as iconic as, say, the holiday of Halloween, they do serve as a vital backdrop or set dressing in the creation of an ominous, threatening, or mysterious mood. So, yeah, why not let a ghost-laden fog take center stage? It just seemed like a win to me. Well, the end result was a tad unfocused and underdeveloped and uneven, thanks in very large part to Carpenter's 11th hour reshoots to ramp the film's scare factor way up after the early cut didn't cut the mustard with him. And I still loved it. And to this day, The Fog remains one of my personal favorite Carpenter films, and the score for it is, I think, probably my favorite Carpenter score, period. And we periodically go up to Point Reyes Light Station and Point Reyes Station and Inverness, and just to go sightseeing around where various locations of The Fog were filmed, because The Fog is awesome, and fog is awesome, as long as you don't have to drive in it. Also on January 27th, but way back in 1924, we have an ad for the Metropolitan magazine, which is hyping up the serialization of a novel called Sin by E. Phillips Oppenheim, which I believe is still available today under the title The Lesser Sin. I couldn't really find any synopsis for it that I felt was accurate. There was something called on Grokpedia, but I trust that about as far as I could throw this house. But I did learn that Edward Phillips Oppenheim, the author, was an English novelist and a prolific writer of best-selling genre fiction. that featured glamorous characters, international intrigue, and fast action. And he was evidently just quite a popular author back in the day. Moving forward to January 28th, which was Wednesday. Back in 1982, we've got Evil Speak, which would be the first horror film I saw on the big screen in 1982. It played at the South Shore Twin in Alameda on a double bill with the insane and also inane killer hand flick Demonoid, which starred the late Samantha Eggert and Stuart Whitman. And that was an energetic one-two punch of supernatural shenanigans and slaughter. That was a memorable afternoon at the movies. Also, what made that particular Saturday even better for my friend and I who saw it, I think my brother was there. He made it through Evil Speak, but then he went home because Evil Speak scared him. But it was that night on Channel 44. They were going to be airing John Carpenter's second and his first professional feature film, Assault on Precinct 13, complete and uncut. I made an audio cassette recording of that broadcast, and I listened to it over and over and over for months until the tape started to wear out, that is. Also, back to Evil Speak, last year there was this ginormous feral pig. I had no idea there were feral pigs on Mount Diablo, but they're feral pigs on Mount Diablo. One night it just wandered by. This thing was huge. It was about the size of our fence. I mean, this thing probably weighed about 200-300 pounds. It was a big old boar. He was a chunky boy, and he was a boy, who I named Wilbur. And when I captured him on the trail camera, and the moment I saw him, Evil Speak came to mind, because there are scenes in that movie, especially the ending, that just go hog wild. Also on January 28th in 1924, there's an advertisement for a new column by the socialite Peggy Hopkins Joyce called My 10 Commandments. I don't know who Peggy Hopkins Joyce was, but so I looked that up, and she was an American actress and a model and a columnist, obviously, dancer, and a notorious socialite. Who's known for her flamboyant life. She had numerous engagements and affairs. She had 6 marriages, the 6th lasting until her passing, I believe. Of course, subsequent divorces, probably 5. And her collections of diamonds and furs. And was just basically like, I guess Zsa Zsa Gabor or something. I was a darling. So she had a column. And, I'm guessing people read it. And now, January 29th, 1998. January 29th, yesterday. But not yesterday in 1998. I have no idea what I just said. Or why I said that. But Deep Rising is opening. This is a movie I was really looking forward to seeing. I was super stoked for it because not only was it a giant monster movie, it was a sea monster movie. That just made it even better. Because, the only thing better than monsters is sea monsters. So I did see it opening weekend. And I saw it at the Brendan Concord 14. And my expectations were not thoroughly met. But I was more satisfied and entertained by the film than my brother, who thought it was terrible. But I liked it, and yeah, it's a giant octo kind of monster, squid octo thing. Though if I had one real complaint about the movie, was that the Rob Bottin's monster design, which is really great, is created almost entirely via CGI and not with kind of like practical effects. Now, granted, that option did allow the creature a range and speed of visual motion that probably could not have been mimicked or shown um, with onset or stop motion. But there's also the problems with it not being integrated all that well with the onset talent. So, yes, I know. Also, at least the monsters partially digested leftovers were on set practical effects. And I also loved the darkly comedic tagline that was featured in the trailer. Women and children first. You're next. Which is better than Full Scream Ahead, although Full Scream Ahead does work. Also on January 29th in 1922, we have this ad for the Red Book magazine. And it's an advertising hyping the serialization of the novel Souls for Sale by Rupert Hughes, who turns out to be Howard Hughes' uncle and the man responsible for Hughes's entry into Hollywood productions. Uh, this novel, from what I've been it was made into a film, by the way, by Hughes himself, Rupert Hughes. It seems to be according to what I was able to discover, seems to be a satirical melodrama about reinvention and stardom that's set in behind the scenes in Hollywood. And I might search it out. I probably won't, but I do like going back into these old newspapers and finding these ads and discovering all of these writers and these books that I'd never heard of, and bringing them up because who knows, there might be some adventurous and intrepid soul that sees this video at one point and says, "Hey, I'm going to read that." It couldn't be worse than Babylon, could it? January 30th, which at time of recording is actually today. In 1976, we had the opening of a re-release of Blackbeard's Ghost, and this is one of those movies I don't really have any memory of, yet I have this feeling in the back of my head that I did see it at some point. I think Dean Jones plays a down on his luck coach or teacher that meets and befriends the ghost of the pirate Blackbeard, played by Peter Ustinov, which leads to said ghost helping the school team win the big game by cheating, of course, and thus Jones's character's career. I think I don't know. If I haven't revisited it by now, I may never revisit it, but never say never. Also on January 30th, but in 1923, the Oakland Tribune hyped up the serialization of Kathleen Norris's 1920 novel Harriet and the Piper, which had also been been made into a film, which was also released in 1920, called starring, I think it's Alexandra Stewart. I think that's the name. Again, a book and an author I'd never heard of or couldn't really look up, but I was really surprised and kind of dismayed because I'd never heard that Norris turned out to be quite the prolific and successful writer. She's got something like 93 novels to her name and was a very popular and the writer through from 1911 to 1946 or 1956 or something like that. And her books, she was evidently devout Catholic, and her books promoted family and moralistic values. She liked books that upheld the sanctity of marriage, the nobility of motherhood, and the importance of servants to others. She was evidently involved in the women's suffrage movement as well as prohibition, and was a big arguer in favor of pacifism. The novel itself seems to be or appears to be about a young, ambitious female secretary working for a wealthy family that is torn between a charismatic artist and a stable suitor. Considering what I said about earlier, I think she chooses the latter, not the former. So it goes. And that's it for stuff of the week. Um, new. Yeah, that's it, folks. After yesterday, that big marathon of making that big video. My brain's fried. I'm probably, yeah, I'm going to sign off. I'll be yapping at you later. Uh, bye.